It's 11:47 p.m. on a Sunday night. You're lying in bed, scrolling through your phone, and that familiar feeling creeps in. You know the one. That heavy weight in your chest that whispers, another week gone by. Another week where you said you'd start and didn't. Maybe it was the workout routine you swore you'd begin on Monday. Maybe it was the side project that's been sitting in your notes app for 3 months. Maybe it was the book you promised yourself you'd finally read, the skill you wanted to learn, the habit you wanted to build. And now, as Sunday bleeds into Monday, you make that same promise again. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start for real this time. But here's what I need you to understand, and I need you to feel this in your bones. Tomorrow is a lie. Tomorrow is where dreams go to die. Tomorrow is the graveyard of good intentions, the cemetery of someday and when I'm ready, and after this project, and once things calm down. Tomorrow doesn't exist. It never has. It never will. There is only today. There is only this moment. There is only right now. And if you're not willing to start now, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not next month, but now, then you're not serious about changing your life. You're just serious about thinking about changing your life, which is a very different thing. Let me tell you something that might hurt to hear, but will set you free if you accept it. The gap between who you are and who you want to become isn't closed by massive leaps. It's closed by tiny steps, taken consistently, starting immediately. 1%. That's all it takes. Not 50%, not 10%, not even 5%, 1 measly percent. But here's the catch. It has to start today, right now, this very moment. Because here's what most people don't understand about change. It's not about the size of the action. It's about the consistency of the action. It's not about how much you do. It's about how often you do it. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. The 1% mindset isn't about becoming 1% better once. It's about becoming 1% better every single day, without exception. Without negotiation, without the luxury of starting tomorrow. Let me show you what this actually looks like in the real world, with real people, facing real challenges. 3 years ago, I met a woman at a coffee shop. She was overweight, exhausted, and told me she'd been planning to get healthy for the past 5 years. She had gym memberships she'd never used, workout clothes with tags still on them, diet books she'd never opened. She was stuck in tomorrow thinking, next Monday I'll start going to the gym. After my birthday, I'll clean up my diet. Once work slows down, I'll focus on my health. But that day, something clicked. Instead of another grand plan for next week, she asked herself one simple question. What's 1% better than what I did yesterday? Yesterday, she'd taken 0 steps toward her health. So 1% better was 1 push-up. That's it, 1 single push-up. She did it right there in the coffee shop. People stared. She didn't care. She did 1 push-up, and then she went about her day. The next day, 1% better was 1 push-up and drinking 1 extra glass of water. The day after that, 1 push-up, 1 glass of water, and taking the stairs instead of the elevator once. By the end of the first month, she was doing 20 push-ups, drinking 8 glasses of water, and taking the stairs every time. By month 6, she was going to the gym 3 times a week. By month 12, she'd lost 40 pounds and run her first 5K. But here's the most important part. It all started with 1 push-up in a coffee shop on a random Tuesday, because she refused to say, I'll start tomorrow. This is the power of the 1% mindset. It's not about dramatic transformations. It's about micro improvements that compound over time. It's about getting so good at starting that you never have to start again. You just have to continue. Most people are waiting for motivation to strike. They're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, the ideal conditions. But motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They come and go like weather. If you wait for motivation to start, you'll be waiting forever, because motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. When you take that first 1% step, something magical happens. Your brain starts to believe you're the type of person who follows through. Your confidence grows. Your momentum builds. And suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes inevitable. But it has to start now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Let me tell you about a guy I know who wanted to write a book. For 3 years, he talked about it. He researched publishers. He outlined chapters. He bought writing software. He attended seminars. He did everything except the one thing that would actually get him closer to having a book. Write. He was always going to really start writing next month, when he had more time, more inspiration, more clarity about his message. Then one day he got tired of his own excuses. Instead of planning to write, he wrote one sentence. That was his 1% for the day, just one sentence. The next day, 2 sentences, then a paragraph, then a page. 18 months later, he published his book. Not because he found the perfect time to start, but because he refused to wait for tomorrow. You see, the difference between successful people and everyone else isn't talent, luck, or even hard work. It's this. Successful people start before they're ready. They take action before they feel like it. They commit to the process before they see the results. Everyone else is waiting for tomorrow. But here's what happens when you choose the 1% mindset over the tomorrow mindset. You stop living in the future and start living in the present. You stop being the person who's always about to change and become the person who's always changing. You stop making promises and start making progress. The 1% mindset is built on 3 core principles. And if you master these, you'll never say, "I'll start tomorrow," again. Principle number 1, start stupidly small. The biggest mistake people make when trying to change is starting too big. They want to go from 0 to hero overnight. They set massive goals that require massive changes, and then they wonder why they can't sustain them. But the 1% mindset is different. It's about making changes so small that they feel almost ridiculous not to do them. Want to start reading? Don't commit to a book a week. Commit to 1 page a day. Want to start exercising? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. Want to start eating healthier? Don't overhaul your entire diet. Replace one unhealthy snack with 1 piece of fruit. The goal isn't to achieve anything significant on day 1. The goal is to build the habit of starting. Because once you have that habit, you can scale it up. But if you don't have the habit, all the scaling in the world won't help you. I know someone who wanted to start meditating. Instead of committing to 20 minutes a day like every meditation app suggested, she committed to taking 3 deep breaths every morning. That's it, 3 breaths. It felt so small that it was impossible to fail. And because it felt easy, she did it every day. After 2 weeks, she naturally started taking more breaths. After a month, she was sitting quietly for 5 minutes. After 3 months, she was doing 20-minute sessions and loving it. But it all started with 3 breaths because 3 breaths wasn't tomorrow worthy. It was too small to postpone. Principle number 2, stack your success. The second principle is about connecting your 1% improvements to things you already do automatically. Your brain loves routines and patterns. It's always looking for ways to be more efficient. When you connect a new habit to an existing one, you're working with your brain instead of against it. This is called habit stacking, and it's incredibly powerful because it removes the decision-making friction that often leads to, "I'll start tomorrow." Here's how it works. After I current habit, I will new habit. After I pour my coffee in the morning, I will write one sentence in my journal. After I brush my teeth at night, I will do 5 push-ups. After I sit down at my desk, I will write down my 3 priorities for the day. After I eat lunch, I will walk around the block once. The beauty of this system is that it doesn't require willpower or motivation. It just requires connecting 2 things that are already happening. And because the new habit is ridiculously small, 1 sentence, 5 push-ups, 3 priorities, 1 lap, there's no reason to postpone it. A friend of mine wanted to start learning Spanish. Instead of signing up for classes or committing to an hour of study time, he decided that every time he went to the bathroom at work, he would learn 1 Spanish word on his phone. Sounds weird? Maybe. But it worked. He goes to the bathroom about 6 times during his workday, so he was learning 6 new words daily. After 6 months, he had learned over 1,000 Spanish words and started having basic conversations with Spanish-speaking coworkers. All because he refused to make learning Spanish a tomorrow activity and made it a right now activity instead. Principle number 3, celebrate micro wins. This might be the most important principle of all. You have to celebrate your 1% improvements. Not just the big milestones, but the tiny daily victories that compound into massive results. Most people dismiss their small actions as not enough. They think, what's the point of 1 push-up? What's the point of reading 1 page? What's the point of writing 1 sentence? But this thinking is backwards. Every 1% improvement is proof that you're becoming the type of person who follows through. Every small action is evidence that you're changing. Every tiny step is a vote for the identity you want to build. When you celebrate these micro wins, you're training your brain to associate improvement with positive feelings. You're creating a reward system that makes you want to continue. You're building momentum that becomes unstoppable. I know this sounds soft or touchy-feely, but it's actually based on neuroscience. Your brain releases dopamine when you complete tasks and achieve goals, even tiny ones. And dopamine is what drives motivation and habit formation. So when you celebrate your 1 push-up, your 1 page, your 1 sentence, you're literally rewiring your brain to crave more improvement. This is why people who celebrate small wins consistently outperform people who only celebrate big achievements. They're not just achieving more, they're enjoying the process more, which makes them more likely to stick with it. But celebrating doesn't mean throwing a party every time you do a push-up. It can be as simple as saying, yes, under your breath, or checking something off a list, or just taking a moment to acknowledge what you've done. The key is to make the celebration immediate and consistent. Every time you complete your 1% action, mark it somehow, because what gets celebrated gets repeated. Now let me address the elephant in the room. I know what you're thinking. This all sounds nice, but you don't understand my situation. I'm too busy, I'm too tired. I have too many responsibilities. I don't have time for even 1% improvements. And you know what? You might be right about being busy and tired and having responsibilities, but you're wrong about not having time for 1%. 1% of your day is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. 1% of your waking hours is even less. We're not talking about finding hours of free time. We're talking about finding minutes or even seconds. You have time to check social media? You have time for 1%. You have time to watch Netflix? You have time for 1%. You have time to worry about tomorrow? You have time to improve today. The problem isn't time. The problem is priority. And when you make 1% improvement a priority, you find the time. Because it doesn't require much time. It just requires consistency. But here's where most people mess this up. They think about 1% improvement as an addition to their already full life. They see it as one more thing to cram into their schedule. But that's not how the 1% mindset works. The 1% mindset is about replacement, not addition. Instead of scrolling social media for 5 minutes, you read. Instead of hitting snooze, you get up and do push-ups. Instead of complaining about your day, you write down 3 things you're grateful for. You're not adding new activities to your life. You're replacing low-value activities with high-value ones. You're upgrading how you spend the time you already have. Let me tell you about someone who understood this perfectly. She was a single mom working 2 jobs, barely keeping her head above water. She wanted to go back to school to get her degree, but every time she looked at the requirements, 4 years of study, thousands of dollars in tuition, hours of homework every night, she felt overwhelmed and gave up before she started. Then she discovered something called micro-learning. Instead of trying to fit traditional college into her impossible schedule, she committed to learning for just 15 minutes a day using online courses and educational apps. 15 minutes. While her coffee was brewing in the morning, during her lunch break, before bed, instead of scrolling through social media. It seemed insignificant at first. What could you really learn in 15 minutes a day? But 15 minutes a day is 91 hours a year. That's more than 2 full weeks of continuous learning. That's a college course worth of education. After 2 years of consistent 15-minute sessions, she had completed enough online courses to earn professional certifications in her field. After 3 years, she landed a better job that paid enough for her to quit her second job. After 4 years, she was making more money than she ever thought possible. All because she refused to wait until she had time for traditional education and instead started with the time she actually had. This is the power of starting now instead of starting tomorrow. This is what happens when you choose action over planning, progress over perfection, consistency over intensity. But let me be clear about something. The 1% mindset isn't about being mediocre. It's not about settling for tiny improvements and calling it good enough. It's about understanding that extraordinary results come from ordinary actions performed consistently over time. When you improve by 1% every day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. You end up 3,778% better. That's the power of compound improvement. That's what happens when you stop waiting for tomorrow and start building today. But compound improvement only works if you actually compound. If you start and stop, you never build momentum. You never create the exponential growth that turns small actions into massive results. This is why the never say tomorrow part is so critical. Every time you postpone your 1% improvement, you're not just missing one day, you're breaking the compound effect. You're starting over instead of building up. Think about it this way. If you're trying to push a boulder up a hill and you stop every few feet, the boulder rolls back down. You end up working harder and getting nowhere. But if you keep pushing consistently, even slowly, eventually you reach a tipping point where momentum carries you forward. Your life is that boulder. Your 1% improvements are the consistent pushing. And I'll start tomorrow is you stopping and letting everything roll back down the hill. The most successful people I know aren't necessarily the most talented or the most motivated. They're the most consistent. They're the ones who show up every day, even when they don't feel like it, even when progress seems slow, even when no one is watching. They understand that success isn't about having perfect days. It's about having more good days than bad days. It's about getting back on track quickly when you get off track. It's about making 1% improvement so automatic that it happens even when everything else in your life is chaos. I want to tell you about a moment that changed everything for me. I was at the gym, struggling through a workout, feeling weak and tired and frustrated with my slow progress. I was thinking about quitting, about trying again next month when I had more energy. Then I saw this elderly man, probably in his 80s, slowly doing exercises with 5-pound weights. He was moving carefully, deliberately, doing maybe half the weight I was doing and taking twice as long. But he was there, every day. I started noticing him because of his consistency. Rain or shine, good day or bad day, he was there, doing his small workout, making his tiny improvements, never missing a day. One day, I asked him about it. He told me he'd been coming to that gym every day for 12 years. He'd started after a heart attack that almost killed him. His doctor told him he needed to exercise, but he was so weak he could barely walk around the block. So he started with what he could do. A 5-minute walk, then 10 minutes, then 15, then he added light weights, then slightly heavier weights, always small increases, always consistent. Never missing a day unless he was literally in the hospital. 12 years later, he was healthier than most people half his age. Not because he did anything dramatic, but because he never said, "I'll start tomorrow." He always said, "I'll continue today." That's when I realized that consistency beats intensity every single time. That's when I understood that the people who change their lives aren't the ones who make dramatic gestures. They're the ones who make quiet commitments and keep them. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. What's your "I'll start tomorrow"? What's the thing you've been putting off, postponing, planning to begin when the time is right? What's the change you want to make but keep pushing to next week, next month, next year? Is it your health, your relationships, your career, your personal growth, your finances, your creativity? Whatever it is, I want you to get specific. Don't just say, "I want to get in shape." What does that actually mean? Do you want to lose weight, build muscle, run a 5K? Be able to play with your kids without getting winded? Don't just say, "I want to improve my career." What does that look like? Do you want a promotion, a new job, a side business, a specific skill? Don't just say, "I want better relationships." What would that actually involve? More quality time with family? Better communication with your spouse? New friendships? Deeper connections? Get crystal clear about what you want to change, because vague goals lead to vague results. And vague results make it easy to say, "I'll start tomorrow," because you're never quite sure what you're supposed to start. But once you get specific, once you know exactly what you want, the next question becomes, what's the smallest possible step you could take right now toward that goal? Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. If you want to lose weight, what's 1%? Maybe it's drinking 1 extra glass of water. Maybe it's taking the stairs instead of the elevator once today. Maybe it's eating 1 piece of fruit instead of 1 piece of junk food. If you want to improve your career, what's 1%? Maybe it's updating one section of your resume. Maybe it's sending one networking email. Maybe it's learning one new skill-related fact on YouTube. If you want better relationships, what's 1%? Maybe it's putting your phone down during dinner. Maybe it's asking your spouse one meaningful question about their day. Maybe it's sending one thoughtful text to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. The key is to make it so small that you can do it right now, before you finish listening to this. Make it so easy that there's no logical reason to postpone it. Make it so simple that saying, "I'll start tomorrow," sounds ridiculous. Because here's the truth. If you can't do 1%, you can't do 100%. If you can't start small, you definitely can't start big. If you can't begin today, you'll never begin tomorrow. Tomorrow is always one day away. It's always in the future, always out of reach, always the perfect time to start, except for the fact that when tomorrow becomes today, you'll just push it to tomorrow again. This is the tomorrow trap, and most people spend their entire lives caught in it. They're always planning to start, always preparing to begin, always getting ready to change. But they never actually do, because they never realize that the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is now, and there's no third best time. The 1% mindset breaks you out of the tomorrow trap by making starting so simple that postponing becomes harder than doing. When your action is small enough, when your commitment is tiny enough, when your step is basic enough, you run out of excuses. You can't say you don't have time for one push-up. You can't say you're not ready to read one page. You can't say you need to wait for the right moment to take 3 deep breaths. And once you start, once you actually begin instead of planning to begin, something magical happens. You build what I call starter's confidence. You prove to yourself that you're the type of person who follows through. You create evidence that change is possible. Most people lack confidence because they lack evidence. They don't believe they can change because they've never actually changed. They don't trust themselves to follow through because they have a history of not following through. But every 1% action you take is evidence. Every small step you complete is proof. Every tiny improvement you make is data that supports a new identity, the identity of someone who does what they say they'll do. This is how self-trust is built, not through grand promises and dramatic declarations, but through small commitments consistently kept, not through perfection, but through persistence, not through waiting for tomorrow, but through starting today. Let me tell you about the compound effect in real terms, with real numbers, so you can see exactly what you're giving up every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow." If you improve by just 1% every day, here's what happens. After 30 days, you're 35% better. After 6 months, you're 600% better. After 1 year, you're 3,778% better. But if you wait just 1 week before starting, if you say, "I'll start next Monday," you lose 7% of that compound growth. If you wait a month, you lose 35%. If you wait 6 months, you lose 600%. Every day you postpone is exponential growth you'll never get back. Every tomorrow is compound improvement lost forever. This isn't just math. This is opportunity cost. This is the price of procrastination, measured in the life you could have lived but didn't, because you were always planning to start living it tomorrow. But here's the good news. You can start reclaiming that compound growth right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. Right now. All it takes is 1%. One tiny step, one small action, one micro improvement, and then another tomorrow, and another the day after that. Not because each individual action matters that much, but because the pattern of consistent action transforms you from someone who thinks about change into someone who creates change. So here's my challenge to you, and I want you to take this seriously. Before this day ends, before you go to sleep tonight, take your first 1% action. Don't plan it. Don't research it. Don't prepare for it. Just do it. Do one push-up, read one page, write one sentence, send one email, make one healthy food choice, take one step toward your goal. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be significant. It doesn't have to be the foundation of some grand transformation. It just has to be real. It just has to happen today instead of tomorrow. And then, when you wake up tomorrow, don't focus on maintaining a streak, or building a habit, or creating a routine. Just ask yourself one simple question. What's 1% better than what I did yesterday? And then do that. The day after, ask the same question and do 1% better than that. Keep asking that question. Keep taking that next small step. Keep refusing to say, I'll start tomorrow, and I promise you something. A year from now, you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Not because you made dramatic changes, but because you made consistent ones. You'll look back on today, the day you stopped waiting and started doing, as the day your life began to transform. Not because of what you accomplished today, but because of what you began today. The 1% mindset isn't about becoming great overnight. It's about becoming great over time. It's about understanding that every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. And every success story started with someone who refused to wait for tomorrow. Your tomorrow is today. Your someday is now. Your perfect moment is this moment, imperfect as it may be. Stop waiting. Stop planning. Stop preparing. Start 1% at a time, starting right now.